In our class, we're talking about the journey through the initiations. The first initiation, of course, was the birth of the Christ in the heart. This is where the person makes the true beginning on the spiritual path. He realizes there is something there, and he seeks to control his physical appetites. And then in the second, he seeks to control his emotions, put them under his control. And then in the third, he seeks to control his mind and illusion in connection with the mind. Now, illusion is kind of a funny term that is not really understood that much because in many esoteric teachings, they teach that there's illusion in all three of these categories of the connection with the appetites, the astral, the emotional body, and the mind, and that is true. In the fact that illusion is dissipated in steps, and the first step to dissipate is is the veils of Maya, where the forces, the material forces, work to try to keep you trapped in this physical realm where you think that the benefits of the pleasures of the spiritual realm is the ultimate, and that's where we need to put all of our labors into physical enjoyment. And this is indeed an illusion, and dissipating that illusion and getting control of the physical appetites to where you control them rather than they control you is a major step. And then the second major step is to do the same thing with the emotions. The emotions is just as difficult. Just think how difficult it is to go on a physical fast. Go on a fast for like a week where you don't eat anything, and takes a lot of self-control, for instance. And the same thing with on the astral level. It takes a lot of self-control to get control over your emotions. So you control your emotions do not control you. And think of what people can do to you emotionally. Like suppose they give you some type of a tremendous insult. Can you take it without feeling like you're a victim and feeling like you have to attack back? Well, let's pick on somebody here. Rulina, are you there?
Yeah.
Yeah, so what do you do when somebody attacks you on an emotional level or insults you? How do you handle
Uh, Honestly,
it?
I usually freeze up.
Okay, that's a really honest answer. Yeah, sometimes you do. When that happens, is it like you're not sure how to respond?
I just don't do well with conflict. Um, and so that's yeah, I guess it's a learned response. I
Right.
get triggered, and so I just kind of my mind shuts down, and I can't really think. Um,
Yeah. Well, that can happen to anybody. I mean, if all of a sudden you hit with some insults or emotional conflict, it does seem to reduce your mental powers somewhat. It even happens with me at times. Sometimes when I look back, I think, I should have handled that quite a bit differently than I did. Do you think that sometimes?
Yeah, I mean, I would like to be in a place where I can think rationally and be able to see the whole picture. What is the cause behind the attack, for example? What's going on with them? Um, and see it from their view. I do tend to do that, but it's usually after the fact. I'd like to be able to do it at the time.
You
Um,
do you hold a grievance though after when somebody says something insulting?
um, I mean, it depends. Not usually.
Yeah,
Um,
well,
I
that's the important thing.
Like I said, I've almost always been able to see both sides of the story, and I can see where the person's coming from and why they might feel that way. It doesn't mean that I agree with it or go along with it, but I can see both sides most often, and so I usually experience more understanding and compassion than not once I get past the initial freeze.
Yeah, yeah. So anyway, that's the key is to yeah, you may not handle it in the most brightest way always because sometimes insults will come unexpectedly and catch you off guard. And you may not know, you may not give the best possible response. But the important thing is to not let it dominate you so you feel negative about it and not dominate you in such a way that you want to get revenge on the guy. Now, bringing the guy to enlightenment, that's no problem saying that, well, you want to make clear to him what he did, but to try to injure him in return, that is what you want to try to avoid. So, anyway, the big illusion in the emotional area, though, is in the ego. Is our ego is very fragile and wants to be protected at all costs. So the and it wants to be seen as very important. We all feel it's our egos all feel it is a feeling of importance, and that causes us to want to excel. You might want to be good at a sport or uh, play, playing an instrument or singing or anything like that. And if you get a lot of praise, that makes your ego feel good. But what the glamour is associated with it is where the ego becomes inflated, where you feel like you are more important than your brothers and sisters, and overcoming that uh, self-importance is an important step in mastering the illusion in connection with the astral, because that illusion is the main illusion in connection with the astral is connected with the ego of self-importance, that you are more important than the other guy. Now, in theory, we recognize equality, but in playing it out in real life, we uh, we tend to see ourselves as the center of the universe and being of extreme importance, and so we're subject to all these glamours that amplify our feeling of importance. And this needs to be neutralized so you see yourself as one of many and you want to benefit the whole with as much drive as it is to benefit yourself. And that's kind of encapsulated in the words of Jesus, where he says, love your neighbor as yourself. And that's a, um, a lot. to be accomplished in that simple statement. But then the real trick and the most difficult to understand for the disciple is mastering the illusions of the mind. And the illusions of the mind must be mastered before the disciple can take what is called the third initiation. And DK calls this the first major initiation. And why does he call it the first major initiation? Annie, do you know?
It's the first one that the hierarchy recognizes or acknowledges.
Okay. And why do they acknowledge it, do you think? How come it's so important?
Because they cannot, a disciple cannot be trusted until he's gone through the third initiation.
Yeah.
He can always fall back.
Yeah. So in the first two initiations, you know, they have purity of motive pretty much, and they're trying to do what's right. And but can a person still be led astray, even though they're in their mind, they're trying to do everything right? What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think so. I think so because, like Hitler did, he was a second initiate and he thought he was doing something good and something right, but he was really led astray. I think that's possible.
And if we put our biases aside and look at all the arguments of the left and the right, there are people on both sides that in their minds, they are doing everything they can to follow the correct path, yet they're arguing like crazy with somebody that thinks differently than themselves. And that guy that thinks differently than themselves is also trying to do everything right. So, what is causing the division?
That's because they can't see, because they're in illusion, because they can't see their own belief system sometimes.
Yeah, yeah. So, what's interesting about illusion is that it's quite difficult to see. The advantage of the emotional conflict, that's obvious what we have to work on. If you have anger issues, for instance, you know when you're feeling angry, right? What do you think about that, Annie? Don't you know when you're feeling angry or jealous or envious or irritated? You know when you're feeling those things, don't you?
Absolutely. Can't deny
but
that.
but if you have a wrong idea in your head, do you know it's a wrong idea?
I think I froze. Sorry. Could you repeat the question, please?
If you have a wrong idea in your head, do you know it's a wrong idea?
No, that's the thing. I mean, you don't because you can't see it.
Yeah, the first two initiations are kind of black and white. If you want to control your appetite and say lose some weight, well, you look at the scales every day and you think, well, I must need some more self-control here. And if you betray your spouse and have sex with the secretary, you know that you did this, you know. But if you are in illusion, you do not know. And that's why it's so difficult to overcome. How do you know if you're in illusion or not? What do you think on that? How in the world do you find out? Well, so
No.
Annie, since you're on the screen here, we'll let you respond to how would you find out if you're an illusion or not?
Well, what I do is I try to understand where the thing I don't like or I think is wrong, or I try to understand where it's coming from. I try to understand why other people are saying or reacting the way they do, trying to understand them. And when I do, it's easier, but sometimes it doesn't remove my own illusion. I pray about it. I pray about it. Please show me what is the truth. And of course, I try to look at different sides, try to keep an open mind, really.
Okay, that's the path to take. There are two concrete ways that illusion is manifested to the disciple once he's on the path. But he has to be on the path, like Annie was kind of outlined there. He has to be doing everything he can. And but there are two things that happen to him that will dispel the illusion. Can you guess what those two things are?
Well, I'll tell you this, the lower triad, the three aspects, are all designed to keep one ego separate from another so that the ego can develop itself. So the separate aspect serves a purpose. But then when you overcome illusion, you see that you're a part of everything. It's part of the big picture, and you see that it's time to connect and gather with the other lights, the people that are overcoming illusion. So you're ending the aspect of being separate, for one thing.
Yeah. Okay, that's all good.
That's not what you're looking for.
Well, that's heading the right direction, but not exactly what I'm looking for.
So your question again is, what are two things that indicate that you've overcome illusion?
No, that will cause you to understand, to see that you were wrong. In other words, what will happen? What are two things that all of a sudden makes you realize, hey, I was actually wrong here? And that's probably the hardest thing for us to admit. A lot of people will rather give their lives to be sacrificed than admit that they were wrong.
Give their firstborn.
Yeah. So what will cause you to admit, say, man, my idea on this was completely backwards. Oh man, how did I think that?
Well, a greater measure of light will reveal that
you have to understand the principle behind the issue. There are the principles involved. Understand what, and then try and apply those principles to the situation. And
But
see
if
from
if the guy is in illusion, though, you can explain the principle to him, and he'll still remain in the illusion.
Well, you have to have a soul.
Yeah. What's going to cause him to come out of it?
Your soul.
a slap in the face.
Yeah. Hard
Well, Adam, that slap in the face is pretty close. That slap in the face causes what?
Yeah, causes pain.
Causes
Causes
anger.
Pain, right? Pain.
Causes anger and resistance.
Pain is the
fear of guilt, doubt.
One of the dispellers of illusion. Is that when you are following the wrong path, like let's say some of these Nazis, a lot of these Nazis were in the illusion that Hitler was right, and then after the war was lost and they had to undergo the Nuremberg trials, some of them realized, that was a wrong idea.
Yeah, when the noose is around their neck.
It hasn't worked out like I expected. And
it's difficult to know another person's mind. I say, but when you have a quandary, you take it to the level of mind and ask your soul, what do I know about this?
Yeah, you're kind of guiding us toward the second thing, but let's focus on this first thing. It's pain. Pain is one of the great dispellers of illusion. That if you have a wrong-headed idea, like let's say let's say somebody comes to you and say, hey, I have an investment idea that is too good to resist. Let me explain how this works. Just put in $10,000 and boy, you're going to make $1 million off of it. Okay, you got this big illusionary trap. It's all built, the whole investment system is built on illusion. Okay, sounds really good. And you know, the guy made a lot of sense. You know, it sounded like it was a win-win idea, that there was no way you could lose. I remember when I was young, the scam of a double option in become available, and you could invest, and if it went up you would win, and if it went down you'd win. And the only way you'd lose is if the like the sugar or silver or whatever that you invested in didn't do anything. And they said it always does something. So anyway, it sounded really good, but it turned out everybody invested in it lost all their money. So if you get this surefire scheme that somebody presents and he creates this big illusion that, boy, this is really going to work, and then you wind up losing all your money, say you lose all your retirement income, is that going to wake you up? What do you think, Moshe? Would that wake a guy up?
JJ, I don't think it's probably going to wake him up from the grave.
Yeah. So if you have your illusion play out to a degree where you can see it's not working and it backfires and causes you pain, then you'll think, well, let me review what I did wrong here. Because how was I deceived into thinking this investment was a surefire thing? Why was I tricked? What happened to trick my mind? I should have known better, but I didn't. And it's because I wanted, I was greedy. I wanted what I wanted to happen. And when it didn't happen and I lost everything, now I'm looking at it without any bias whatsoever. I can see it on hindsight, but I could not see it in advance. And so slowly the disciple has a number of illusions revealed to him by pain. But others are not revealed to him by pain because, well, let's take the Mormon Church.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah. What'd you say?
Yeah, I want to ask a question, JJ.
Sure.
Sometimes people go through cycles of pain. People don't learn from mistakes, and they repeat these mistakes over and over again and go through the cycles of pain. So I'm just wondering, how is it that the illusion or the pain of the illusion could not really achieve its purpose there?
Well, not all pain works to dispel illusion, but a lot of illusion is dispelled by pain. Sometimes pain is, there's probably always some illusion connected with pain, but there's always lessons to learn. But if the disciple, when the disciple goes through the mastering the physical appetites, there's a lot of, can be pain and distress there. He can have a lot of ill health to overcome. And so that guides him to creating the principles of good health. And then when he enters the control of the emotions, that's you have a lot of pain in relationships. You have bad relationships because you didn't handle the emotional self with wisdom, and you learn to dispel some illusion there. But then when you get in the illusions of the mind, then even though you mastered the lower self to a great degree, the illusions of the mind are very tricky, but they are also dispelled through pain to a certain degree. But then that only works so much. Then the second step in dispelling illusion, beyond pain.
How about an intuitional flash?
Right. You hit the nail on the head there, Curtis. Intuition, you have to access the intuition to dispel all the illusion necessary. Pain is a stepping stone. It helps you dispel quite a bit of it. But then because you're forced into situations where you have painful results, and then you start thinking, well, what did I do wrong? But other things in life, you have illusions that don't seem to produce that much pain, but there's still a lot of illusions, and they are only dispelled through the intuition. And how do we get at that intuitional flash that opens up the understanding to the illusion, Curtis?
Well, I had that happen. You put me in a very delicate situation, Mr. Dewey, when I was a member of the Mormon Church by introducing reincarnation, and I had to know. I was backed against the wall. My back was against the wall. I had to know. So I went in and prayed about it, and I asked my soul, like, is this a true principle? I got to know. I didn't go through any pain over it. But I all of a sudden, aha, I got an intuitional flash that lasted for 3 days, and I couldn't deny it. And so every time I think about it, it would come on stronger. And then once I accepted it, that 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 inner fire dissipated. So that's what happened with me.
And then after that happened, you went and taught all kinds of other Mormons. And did they do the same thing you did?
Oh boy, I thought, man, I'm going to wake everybody up. This is a new revelation I got to share with the world. And I went into a Sunday school class and stood up and invited them to know more about it. And there were two doors, and I went out one door. I says, if you want to know more about it, talk to me, come out this door. And they all raced out the other door.
So they did not seek to know.
They weren't ready.
Right. And if your illusion, if you really believe that illusion and accept it as reality, will you even ask the question?
No, they don't ask.
Am I wrong? Is it possible that I am wrong on
No,
this?
no,
Oh,
they weren't
but
seekers.
but the prophet says this is the way it is, so it's stupid to even ask the question.
The prophet speaks, the thinking has been done. I don't need to
Yeah.
think about it.
Yeah. So the disciple has to reach a point where he questions everything. He questions, and then he gets an answer that's verified by a soul. Sometimes the verification is just the still small voice, and that's enough on small things. But if it's a big thing, now in Curtis's example, it was a life-changing dispelling of illusion. So it was a big deal. If it's going to change the course of your life and maybe even your marriage, your job, your financial situation, if it's going to change everything in your life, you want to know for sure. Okay.
Well, I was selling real estate with a bunch of Mormons, and the minute they heard I was excommunicated, that was it. So, I lost. And my dad said, if you lose the church, we're going to disown you. Of course, that only lasted for about a week.
Yeah, but with some dads, unlike yours, it would have lasted a lifetime.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So, yeah, dispelling illusion is very tricky. First of all, you have to consider, am I an illusion? Am I wrong on this thing? And a lot of people just will not even consider that they might be wrong. especially on something that sounds really good. A lot of the political bickering we see about us is both sides are 100% convinced they're right on everything, yet there is illusion on both sides, and but they do not question, they do not seek, but then sometimes they will undergo quite a bit of pain. Like, look at old Nixon. When Watergate surfaced, he had to face the situation that he was in and some of the illusions. He underwent so much pain. It affected him physically, and he just about died shortly after Watergate. He had medical problems, and he was near life and death for months, and he barely survived. And then he come back and wrote his memoirs and lived quite a few years after that. But it affected him tremendously, the problems that he had to face.
He died at 81.
Yeah, but right after Watergate, he had this. I can't remember what it was, but he was in a hospital near life and death for a couple months.
He had phlebitis.
Yeah, that was it.
Phlebitis?
Phlebitis. It's a blood clots in his veins in his legs, for one thing.
I think a lot of us would like to see a lot of other politicians be confronted with reality the way Nixon was.
Well, eventually, everyone is confronted with their own errors.
Yeah.
But most politicians are financially invested in their lies.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, videos are bringing a lot of things to light that in the past would not have been. People with phones with cameras are taking pictures of things that can't be denied. A lot of the media is coming to the fore, I think.
Yeah.
In a good way. People are coming to the fore in a good way.
Not always.
Okay, can you think of an illusion that is held by some people that is obviously not that you can see through yourself?
Say that again.
Can you think of an illusion that is held by a lot of people that you know is an illusion, but they don't?
Yeah. In my family, there's a lot of that going on around religion and politics.
Yeah, there's a lot of it in religion. For instance, the illusion that a baby is born in sin, the way they look at that. And that's obviously an illusion. But there's some truth behind it in the fact that when you're born with a certain amount of karma. So it's right in a way that they do not understand that it's right. But you don't need to baptize a baby to take away any sin. That's complete illusion. That's just one example. Can you think of another one? No, it doesn't have to be religious. It can be anything. How about the fact that there's about a lot of people out there think that we didn't go to the moon.
That's just a false idea. Illusion is a false idea.
Well, yeah, that's an illusion.
Yeah. So.
Unless we didn't go to the moon, then they would be right. But so did we go to the moon? Why do these people think we didn't go to the moon?
They're the ones that think the Earth is still flat.
Yeah, a lot of these people in the same category. A lot of the people that think. What's interesting is that 22% of the population think that the Earth is either flat or they're not sure if it's flat or not.
Oh, I don't believe that. 22%.
Yeah, and they've done several
Understand?
polls on it. And the last time I looked into had arguments with the flat Earth people, that was what it was. And I was thinking, well, it's got to be less today because we have a lot more people in space, and we know for sure the Earth is round. Even Musk has been sent people up there, And so I thought it'd be less, but it's not. The latest poll is still very similar. I was amazed by that. And then the poll that we didn't go to the moon, there's only about 12% of the people think we didn't go to the moon. And I thought, well, that doesn't make sense. But it's the way that they ask the question. On the Earth is flat, do you believe the Earth is flat, or maybe you're not sure? Now, on the moonshot, the question was, do you believe that we went to the moon? So it was black and white. So they don't have a category of people that's not sure. I think it would be very similar between the two. So how do we know we went to the moon? Is it because well, I remember I was sat there and I watched the rocket go off on TV, and I watched them land on the moon, and that was it. Pretty simple, cut and dried, right?
1969.
Yeah.
Summer of Love and going to the moon.
Yeah. So anyway, we're running.
Do we just want to believe that we went to the moon? Maybe we just want to believe it, that our technology is advanced enough that we could.
Okay, we're going to talk about those two illusions next week, about did we go to the moon, and what's the illusion, what created that illusion, and what creates the illusion about the Earth being flat, that approximately 22% of the population are not sure. Now, on the moon landing, in the Muslim countries in the Middle East, it's 90% think we didn't go to the moon. Here in America, it's about 22% either think we didn't go or they're not sure. That's on the flat Earth. 12% think we definitely didn't go to the moon. And it's interesting. I was a while back, I was at an event and talking to this guy, and he seemed like a very intelligent guy. And then all of a sudden he talked about how we didn't go to the moon. And I thought, wow. That's this guy seemed pretty bright, but he thinks we didn't go to the moon. That's pretty
well. Some authority must have told him that he thought that we didn't go to the moon.
Yeah. So we'll talk about those two illusions and how they are illusions next week.
Well, I can see in the Middle East, the Arabs running around on their camels didn't have a TV. They didn't see it.
Yeah.
Poor Arabs.
Yeah, I don't know if it's still 90%, but I saw that figure when I was looking into it about a decade ago. And it's probably not that bad now, but it was 90% when I checked into it.
Not only did we go to the moon, but we also have photographs of the moon and from all sides. And some of the photographs, I know they were doctored to remove some of the things that were found on the moon.
Yeah, and that's part of the problem is there was some doctoring of photographs, and that made a lot of people think that it was produced on a stage or something. But there's a reasonable explanation behind all these illusions. Okay, my friends, nice to meet with you, and we will continue this conversation next week. And until then, try to see the true reality and not get trapped in some silly illusion, especially if it's somebody that comes up and says, hey, give me that. I got an investment that you can't lose in, man. So if you hear that, well, run. Yeah.
All right.
Okay, my friends, we will talk to you again soon.
Soon it is.
May the spirit be with you.
Amen. Thanks, Joe.